Okay, that's the right button. All right. Hi, guys. This is a lecture on social media strategy, which is for Module 2. So why do you need a strategy? Well, you need a strategy because social media is so big and you can get so lost in it that you'll be distracted by the shiny things, right? The new things. Ooh, shiny. And you will never get the results that are measurable. That are important to the company. And if you don't get measurable results that are important to the company you're working for, you will not get a budget next year. And if you do not get a budget next year, you will not have a job next year. And after all, that is kind of what's really important is you having the better budget and you keeping your job. So it's a question of, sort of what is important, and more importantly, what is important to the C-suite, and what's important to reaching your business goals or your branding goals. So it's a fan, right? We all know what that is, but what does it do for us? Well, if it's in my office sitting near my desk, it blows on me and keeps me cool. However, if it's on Facebook, I don't know what my fan is doing for me, or I have to more, I probably do know what the fan is doing for me, but I need to be able to explain it and measure it and show it. It's not that you have a fan, it's what the fan does that's important. So, things that are usually not as important, at least to the people who count, right, are the number of subscribers, the number of likes. Reach tends not to be important unless it does something. It's not how big your reach is, it's not how many people see your name, it's what seeing that name does for you. Because after all, you could have a terrible business disaster, and a lot of people will see your name. A lot of people saw BP as oil was spilling into the Gulf of Mexico. However, I guarantee that did not help reach any business goals. So, when you try and find out what's important, you want to find out what the goals are for the company. Once a week, your company probably has some sort of board meeting, not a board meeting necessarily, but a meeting, right, with all the important people in it. And you'd like to be in that room so you can write down what it is they think that's important and so you can offer your own insight. But let's suppose that right now the social media manager doesn't get to be in that room. You still need to figure out what's on the piece of paper that they pass around so that they can decide if they've done well this month, because that's what the important goal is, right? You need to look what the people who are meeting and determining the company's trajectory, what are they measuring? How do they define success? And you can certainly ask them. And then you can ask them what they want out of social media, because they may not know much about social media beyond the fans, we want fans part. You do, and you're going to be able to help them. You should always ask, but sometimes it's important that we give people what they need, not what they want. You can also go around to marketing and other departments, right, and see what the problems are they're having. Because sometimes the problems they're having are potential goals for you, right? You find out from the customer service department that nobody knows how to install the latest round widget from Marsh Media Widgets, which you'll hear about in the future. Um, and so you think to yourself, but I bet if we had a YouTube video on how to install the widget, then they might not get as many calls. And that ends up being a measurable goal that is important to the company that you can report to your boss, which will ensure that you get budget. Your goals need to lead to your strategy, because remember, we're talking about strategy. And to have a strategy, you have to have goals. So, what kind of goals are we talking about? As I mentioned earlier, uh, you have business goals and you have communication goals. Now, communication goals are the traditional public relations and advertising goals. If you ask my colleagues in my department about the goals that people from our department should be dealing with. Usually they're going to talk about communication goals. I include business goals, and I'll tell you why when I get to that section. But these, as I said, are the traditional public relations and advertising goals. And they all sort of revolve around the brand, right? And we remember what the brand is from the first lecture, which is a brand is sort of those ineffable qualities, right, of a company that people think about, or, you know, what people say about a company when the company's not in the room. So the first sort of goal is to create brand awareness, and you're going to hear about that a lot, right? To inform your target audience about your brand, which includes reinforcing your brand, right? Crisis management and brand protection in case something goes wrong. And then if something goes really, really, really wrong and you discover that your company has a brand that you do not like. For instance, if you are Uber and all of a sudden your company is the company of sexist, crude bro culture, you may decide that's not a good brand to have if you want to do well, particularly in a public offering, and therefore you need to do some rebranding to recreate, give it another personality, give your company another brand, rebranding, right? And then you need to define what kind of need your product or service meets, right? Which is to give, you know, let your target audience aspire to use your brand because it does something for them. And then you want to remind them, right, about your product and services so that they keep, it's called top of mind, so that your brand is top of mind. So those are the three basic communication goals. And we can talk about them as informing your audience about your brand, persuading your audience to purchase your product or use your service, and reminding your audience about your brand and encouraging them to make the purchase top of mind. So that's three easy words you can use to remember that. When we talk about brand building, we're talking about things like sentiment. How do people feel about the brand? It doesn't do me any good if everybody is talking about my brand, Volkswagen. If what they're saying is it sucks, and their share of voice. How many people who are talking about round widgets are talking about Marsh Media round widgets? Then we have influence. Are the people who are considered influential experts talking about using Marsh Media round widgets? And last, we have evangelism, which is a little bit like influence, except evangelists are your customers. They are the customers that love your product so much that they tell everyone. They post all the time on Marsh Media round widgets. They're like, oh my God, this is the best widget ever. And you want to cultivate evangelists because they affect your sentiment, your share of voice, your influence, and quite frankly, they affect your sales. So you're going to have business goals and brand goals. But the most important thing is that they be SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, measurable, agreed upon, realistic, and time-based. If your goals are not SMART, you should not be using them. So what does a SMART communication goal look like? Well, here's some examples, right? To raise awareness by 20% of women 18 through 25 in the Doral area to our agency's unique role in combating homelessness in the community by the fourth quarter of 2018. So, and that is going to be done by increase by 100% the number of women 18 through 25 who like our Facebook page by the end of 2018, mistyped, and to increase by 23% the engagement with women 18 through 25 on our Instagram page by the end of 2018. So SMART, S-M-A-R-T, specific, right? As specific as possible. What are we doing? We're specifically raising awareness with a very specific target audience, women 18 through 25 in the Doral area. Specifically to what? To our agency's unique role in combating homelessness in the community, right? That's very specific. It's also measurable. 20% is measurable. 100% is measurable. 23% is measurable. Agreed upon. Agreed upon is not something that I can show you on a slide, right? But to have agreed upon means that I have gone to all the stakeholders, right? To the board, to the C-suite, to the heads of various departments, even perhaps to some of the people in the departments themselves, and talked about what's important, and we all agree that this is an important goal. The reason why you should have agreed upon goals is so that someone else isn't working against your goal someplace else in the company, sometimes completely unaware that they're doing it, sometimes because they just plain don't agree with your goal. Goals need to be transparent so that everybody understands and that you know that this truly is a goal that the entire organization gets behind, right? Relevant. We presume that our organization deals with combating homelessness and that 18 through 25 is a demographic from which we either raise funds or we help those people remain not homeless, right? That's an important demographic for us. So it is relevant to what we do to our central purpose. And lastly, time-based. I specifically have by the fourth quarter of 2018. Right? We need to have a time when our goal needs to be accomplished so that we have a time when we can look back and say, is our goal accomplished? The point of having a goal, a SMART goal, is that so when you get there, you can all celebrate. That's how you know you're making progress. And then if you don't get there, you can either do some goal revision because it was too ambitious, or you can take a look at why you didn't get there. Right? So you can fix things because there's no point in, doing things that don't work over and over again. You need to find the things that do work. To find the things that do work, you need to know when it is you're going to look at and see if you have accomplished your goals. So SMART goals. You must always use SMART goals. There is a template for SMART goals in this module, and the assignment involves creating SMART goals. I encourage you to use that template so that you know you're hitting all of the 5 areas of SMART goals. Now, in conjunction with goals, we have key performance indicators, or KPIs. You're going to hear about KPIs throughout your career, and if you're not familiar with them, now is a good time to start. A lady who I like named Katie Payne, who specifically does research on social media measurement, which is another class I teach, refers to this as the kick butt index, which sometimes helps when you're looking to figure out what your KPIs are, right? We call them she calls them the kick butt index because it's what you're doing when you can look around and say, wow, we're really kicking butt this week or this month or this quarter. So here we have the goals, right, that were from the previous slide. Our KPIs are our steps on the way that we can clearly measure to reach our goals. So perhaps in order to get our 100% increase in likes by women 18 through 25 on our Facebook page, we want to increase the number of women 18 through 25 who like our Facebook page by 10% per month in 2018. That would actually give us, instead of 100%, it would give us 120% for the year. If we keep it at 10% per month, we are kicking butt, right? We're doing really well. we can say, yay, we're moving toward our goal in a timely and fashion that means we're likely to make our goal. So that would be a KPI. Or you could even just say the number of women, right? 18 through 25 who like our Facebook page, and then you would track how many percent it was, and you'd say yay if it was 10% or over, and you'd say if it was 5%, right? So it's an indicator of how well you're doing. Equally, you can say that either you can define it as increasing the number 18 through 20 women 18 through 25 who engage with an Instagram post by 3% per post, or you can track the number of women who engage with an Instagram post and see whether it is good enough or not to make your 23% engagement increase by the end of 2018. So if this is not clear, by the way, this is the perfect time to write a question in the discussion area, or, heck, even arrange a conference, give me a call, so we can go over stuff, because KPIs are going to be really important to your career in communication, right, or in business. So it's important that you understand them. Business goals, or economic value goals, are traditionally the purview of marketing, and some of my colleagues would say belong in the College of Business, and maybe it does, but I'm going to tell you that I don't know a single corporate head or owner of a business that in their heart of hearts doesn't think that their business goals are the most important goals. Why are you building brand awareness? So more people will buy your stuff. Why are you engaging in crisis management? So more people will stop not buying your stuff and buy more stuff. Ultimately, business goals drive business. It is, I'm not going to say that communication goals are unimportant or just fluffy or whatever. They are absolutely vital. But you are probably at some point going to need to be able to relate what you do to a business goal, unless you work for a really, really, really big corporation that has a very firmly entrenched line between public relations and advertising and marketing. So what are business goals, aside from what the C-suite is interested in, is measuring? They are sales, right? Traditional conversions. So, we build brand awareness so more people will buy things. We promote our brand or establish our brand as the fun thing that, the toothpaste that will make your smile whiter, and women will flock to your door so that you will buy it. Okay? It's return on investment. How much am I spending on social media, and what kind of sales is that generating? What kind of, or more importantly, what kind of money is that generating? Is money coming in, or am I saving money? Which leads to the last one, savings. Social media actually can generate a lot of return on investment through savings. One way is through customer service, right? Social media is a fairly simple and very personal way to engage in customer service, either thanking people for saying nice things or working to solve the problems that people are having with your product or with your brand. You can also generate savings because social media is often much less expensive than traditional media. If you take the money you spend on a Super Bowl commercial and use it to purchase paid posts on social media, you can generate probably 3 times as many eyeballs, and certainly 10 times as many of chances to see, opportunities to see, because social media is much less expensive than your traditional Super Bowl commercial. So that savings over traditional marketing can be a really important element of the return on investment. What are you getting for your social media? Business goals also need to be SMART goals. So they too need to be specific, measurable, agreed upon, relevant, and time-based. There's usually in some ways it's a lot easier to generate SMART goals as business goals because we measure sales per quarter, right? We measure sales of red pens in the third quarter of 2017, and that's a SMART goal. The next slide's going to talk a little bit more about business goals in action, and the example company I will use is Marsh Media Widgets. I use Marsh Media Widgets for a lot of examples. It is my favorite fictional widget company, but I realize not everyone's familiar with widgets. And what is a widget? A widget's a generic thing, or as dictionary.com puts it, a small mechanical device, such as a knob or a switch, especially one whose name is not known or cannot be recalled. So you just think it's a thing. What does Marsh Media Widgets make? They make things for media. So we have Marsh Media Widgets, which is my favorite widget making company. Okay, right now they're moving into a new widget line, the Round widget. They wish to increase the sales of the Round widget, which they are launching, right? And how can they use social media to do that? They can use it to increase awareness, increase traffic to the Round widget information site that comes from social, and that's very measurable. They can increase the presence. Marsh Media can be the go-to expert for Round widget information, or Round widget experts worldwide can talk about the Marsh Media Round widget. We can track conversions. Conversions are usually purchases, but they can be other things. But it's what you get the customer to do something, that call to action. But if we were doing a sales conversion, we can have a coupon that with a trackable code, and we can track how many of those were redeemed, how many of those coupons that came through social were redeemed. And I also want to mention saving money, because saving money can be as important as making money. A penny saved is a penny earned, according to Benjamin Franklin. And there's a couple ways you can save money. One is simply decreasing the on-site size of your help desk if you can provide a lot of help through social. But also it's important in averting the crisis, right? I have Build-A-Bear. Build-A-Bear, when it first went online, solicited a lot of personal information from young children, which made their parents really angry and concerned. What happened was the CEO went onto the same social media channels where these parents were and said, you know, you're right. We shouldn't do that. We're not going to do that anymore. We will, of course, get parents to sign off because we want to be able to send you your bear, but we're not going to ask invasive questions of children. And by doing that, she was able to avert a potential sales crisis of people saying, I'm going to boycott Build-A-Bear. So based on the previous slide, let's look at the SMART goals for Marsh Media Widgets. And remember, SMART goals stand for specific, measurable, agreed upon, relevant, and time-based. So the first two are communication goals. Increase share of voice, as measured by mentions on Twitter, for Marsh Media Round widgets by women 18 to 40 in 6 months. If you don't know what share of voice is just yet, don't worry about it. We're going to talk about it later, but it's essentially the number of people talking about you. Increase positive sentiment on Marsh Media Round widgets on the Marsh Media Round widget subreddit by 20% in 6 months. And if you've ever gone on Reddit, positive sentiment is not easy to come by on Reddit.
But nonetheless, we're going to go into that swamp and try and talk up Marsh Media around widgets. The last two are traditional business goals. Increase round widget order size by 10% in 6 months, and decrease the round widget return rate by 2% in 6 months. Both of those increase my margin, increase the amount of money I earn. One is an increasing in order size, the other one is essentially fixing problems, decreasing the return rate, right? And those are good examples of smart business goals. So how do we accomplish our goals? Well, that involves key performance indicators, KPIs, and tactics. Tactics are the things we actually do to make our goals happen. So we talked about KPIs earlier, and KPIs are the things that we measure on the way to accomplishing our goal, what happens every week, what happens every month, that means we're on track to our goal. So if our KPI, our goal would be a measurable amount of increased traffic on our website coming with a specific demographic with a certain intent, right? The KPI might be measuring the amount of traffic on the website. The tactic is how you're going to accomplish that. And one way to do that in social is to reach out to influencers. And let's use the Marsh Media widget example again. If there are experts in the widget field out there on the web, people who have widget blogs, I might develop a relationship with them, and it really needs to be a relationship, and we go a little bit into that again later in the class. But I develop a relationship with these influencers to get them to talk about my widgets, to solicit their opinion about things I can fix, so that when they are talking about round widgets in general, they mention Marsh Media widgets. I might also offer them a coupon that they could offer to the people who follow their blog, which is good for them and good for me. And that coupon could drive more traffic to purchase on my website, and the coupon has a trackable code. Keeping in mind that, again, it needs to be specific. Specifically, I have a goal that involves a certain type of traffic doing a certain thing on my website in a certain time frame, and I need to be able to measure it. And things like coupons are very helpful as far as measuring is concerned. Again, there's a segment on a module on measurement in general, but I want you to, in the back of your mind, always be thinking you need to be able to measure, so you need to pick something that is measurable and how you're going to measure it. I might also, in a tactic to increase traffic on the website, which is my KPI, I might try a new social channel. Groupon's a social channel. I might try putting something on Groupon and seeing if that drives more people to my website to purchase widgets. I might increase my social presence. I might do an ad spend on Facebook or an ad spend on Instagram, or promoted posts are often better than a traditional ad, particularly on Facebook. And again, we have the ever-present coupon, because if I put a coupon in, again, it's very trackable. Although it is generally, if you're pushing someone to your website, you know where people come from to get to your website. And often, so that is one way you can track. Just Google Analytics makes it very easy to track where people come from when they come to your website. And so if I'm increasing my ad spend in Facebook, if the Facebook link drives people to my website, I'll know that. Then you have to choose a channel for your tactics. And channel in this case means what social media platform are we talking about? Channels can be things like, television, radio, but in social, we're talking about the difference between Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and YouTube, and there's a million others, right? So those are our channels. So it's important to understand what each channel is good at so that you can choose the right channel. And we're going to talk about channels in the rest of the class, or eventually soon, in part because while social media is always changing, it's also important for you to know what is happening right now, because presumably you're graduating in a couple of years and chances are Pinterest will still be around. So you should know what it's good at. But anyhow, so these are some examples, right? Pinterest is good at driving traffic back to your website. People click on a pin, the pin should be linked to your website, boom, you have the traffic is coming back. Facebook drives social sharing and increased reach because Facebook tends to be communities of people who know each other fairly well. And so if you can reach out to someone and get them to share something, the people in their that are connected to them are also very likely to share it if it comes with a positive comment. Instagram is the #1 social channel for engagement, which means that people are more likely to do the thing you've asked them to do. Also, sharing and double clicking, right, counts as engagement for Instagram. And Snapchat, which is, I'm not going to say new, but newer among social channels, also targets a new audience. Businesses are just getting into Snapchat because they think it's a little scary, because it's very hard to measure what's going on in there. It takes an effort. But let's say you're opening up to a new audience which is younger and presumably uses Snapchat. Then that would be driving your new audience, and you would be able to measure to see if the people who are in the demographic of Snapchat are talking about your product or visiting your website or have their sentiment about your product, they think better of it. The sentiment is changing in a positive way. So that's the importance of each tactic, right? Usually involves a specific group or a single channel, right? And so the link between channels and tactics is very important. So to sum up the lecture, you need goals. Goals are absolutely important. You cannot develop a social media strategy without goals. You cannot be effective in your job unless you know the goals. They can be communication goals, they can be business goals, but they must be SMART goals: specific, measurable, agreed upon, relevant, and time-based. I guarantee you there's a question about that on the test. SMART goals. And then you have your key performance indicators, your kick butt index, right? Your measurable steps to get to that goal. How do I know I'm headed in the right direction? What is good progress? What's great progress toward that goal? Then there are the tactics. Tactics are the things that you need to do to achieve your goal. Most students don't have problems with tactics because tactics are the first things they think about, which is, I'm going to use Twitter and post 5 times a day with great pictures. That's a tactic, right? So, but nonetheless, it's important that there be a straight line from your goals to your KPIs to your tactics. Tactics must be linkable back to a goal. You can't just pull a tactic out of thin air. If I ask you, well, why are you doing that? You should be able to tell me why. What goal is this helping me with? And then lastly, particularly, in the case, this is a class on social media, so I'm talking about social channels, but where are you doing this? What's your social channel? Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. In the next module, we're going to talk about audiences, which is another huge part. You need to know who your audience is. You need to be able to describe them. You need to know where they are. You need to know what they like. And you need to know what social channel they are on. So that helps define your social channel, both the thing you need to do and to whom you are speaking to. Define your social channel. I hope this has been a reasonable lecture experience for you. Sorry if it took too long. Break it up. You know, you can always stop, go get a cup of coffee, come back. If you have questions, please, please, please ask me questions in the discussion forum. I'm going to be looking out for them. This is an essential part of this class. You must understand goals. You must understand brands. You must understand key performance indicators. That's really key to being a good strategic communication professional.